Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another show, Jim Hall, You Ought to Know. And this time, we're coming to you from Fullerton, California. We're on Chapman Avenue, and you can see the place is called the Dice House. And you ever wonder what games people like to play these days? All kinds of games out there. I used to play Monopoly and Life and Scrabble. And Caden here has some of his favorite games, too, that include the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and some others. Well, Mom and Dad and some other people have some other games they like to play, too. And at the Dice House, there's a whole group of people that like to get into these role-playing type games. We're going to find out about that all on this show here at the Dice House in Fullerton, California on Chapman Avenue is where we are, simply because, like with all of our shows, you ought to know. Stay with us. We're going to have fun on this show. Welcome back, everybody. Jim Hall, You Ought to Know. And I told you we're coming to you from in Fullerton, just adjacent to Cal State Fullerton. A lot of people know Cal State. And we are here at the Dice House on Chapman Avenue. And first off, let's introduce you.
I'm Ted Chamberis.
And Ted, you are at the Dice House, and you're one of the owners here?
I am one of the owners, yes.
And how many people are involved here at Dice House?
As an owner-wise,
Yeah.
it's just me and my buddy Twan.
All right, the two of you. And we're
Just
going to meet
two of us,
Twan during the show.
Yes, absolutely.
But you've got a lot of people that are involved in the Dice House. In what type of role?
A lot of people are here for gaming, their friends, customers, and fans.
Well, let's talk about that, because
Okay.
Dice House is what? What kind of place is Dice House?
We are a retail store dealing mostly with card games, board games, role-playing games. We also do in-store gaming, such as Magic tournaments and such, and also role-playing games and miniature games, tournaments that people come in and play.
Well, a lot of people may not know what we're talking about when we talk about role-playing games or
Okay.
the type of board games that you may have. So is this a niche type business? What is this?
Yes, it is a niche type business to where you won't find these games in, say, your regular retail stores like Walmart or Target. Things like Dungeons and Dragons. We also have Magic the Gathering, which again, you may find some of these product in the stores, but mostly we specialize in this stuff. You will not see actual gameplay in those stores, just in stores like us.
Well, we're going to get a little background from Twan. Let's get some background on you. First
Okay.
off, where'd you come from? How'd you get into this? How long you been doing it, and so on?
Well, I used to work at a game store called Game Castle. Actually, that's where I met Twan. Worked there for about 10 years. When the owner decided to retire, both Twan and I decided to take up the reins and open up our own store.
Now, with any business, we go into a lot of places, a lot of restaurants we do, a lot of different types. With any business, is it easy, especially when you've been a player, when you like this type of business, as a fan, is it easy to run the business from the business side?
Oh, it's being on the other side of it, working for someone else as opposed to being your owner is completely different.
Well, what about owning something that you really like? Does the hobby get interfered with when you run the business side?
It tends to enhance it, at least for me, to where I can see more of being on the other side, seeing what new stuff is coming in, what I like. I get the inside scoop on new stuff coming out. So I like it a lot more, being an owner now as well. So, and being your own boss does help.
Well, it does. It gives you some flexibility there, at least. And
Absolutely.
I heard in there you can bring in inventory that maybe you like. But is that a smart business thing to do?
Actually, yes, it is, because then when it comes in, I can show other people, other customers,
Yeah.
they might have an interest in it, and sure enough, most of the time they do end up liking it, buying it, and becoming, whenever they come in, we talk about it, and just have a stronger customer, relation.
Okay, your background, you were at Game Castle. Game Castle used to be, for people that may not know, a lot of people do that watch the show. Game Castle was real big, and they were located where?
Actually, right across the street from where we are right now. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's why we wanted to open up right here, so we could keep all the customers that Game Castle once had.
Well, the role-playing games, and especially I mentioned in the opening that we're kind of adjacent to Cal State Fullerton, just a couple blocks away. A lot of participation from the college types here.
Oh, absolutely. Most of our customers are from the colleges. I mean, there is Cal State Fullerton right here, and of course, we do get a lot of people here from there. Down the street, there's also Fullerton College, the JC, which really helps out too, just being centrally located to two colleges and a big high school as well.
All right. Well, one of the big role-playing games, you mentioned Magic. Is that one of the largest out there card-wise? Well,
card-wise, yes, that is. That is the original collectible card game. And it is the biggest one. It's still going strong. We do lots of business with it. Lots of people come in and play constantly. So, yeah, it is big for us.
And board games. What's the biggest board game going, or the most popular out there?
There's several different board games that are really, really popular. It's really a different type of genre to where there's games like World of Warcraft, the board game, which a lot of people like, which is one type of genre that people like. Then there's family games like Ticket to Ride, which is a train-based game, but it's completely different from, say, World of Warcraft.
No, I've seen that one around, and it seems like there's different. Is there different volumes of it or levels? 'Cause, see, I'm not a player, so this is new to me. But certainly my son, daughter-in-law, and everybody has been playing for a number of years. But I've seen a lot of different versions of it.
Of Ticket to Ride, yes, absolutely. There's different versions. There's the American version. There's the Europe. There's Markland. There's Switzerland. So yeah, there are different places, I guess you could play.
All right, and of course that must be different adventures then with each one it brings with it.
Absolutely, because there's different routes that you can play with that game. So, and every time you play, even the original game, it's always going to be different because everyone's doing something different every time.
Average price of a game then, if I wanted to get into it, if I was interested in Magic and the cards, I need a starter set. What do I need to get going?
You would probably need. Well, they don't make starters anymore. They do have intro packs, which run $11.95. And that does have a 40-card starter in there and a booster. Then you'd probably want to enhance your deck with buying more boosters as well. So I would say roughly just to get started, a good price would probably be about $20, $25.
All right, Dice House now, again, I mentioned we're in Fullerton. Give us the information. Can they, internet first up?
Yes, we do have a web page. It's www.dicehouse.com. We also have a Facebook page, so if you just do a search for Dice House, you'll find us there. Our address is 2493 East Chapman, and phone number 714-871-6494.
So they can get you all types of different ways.
That's right. There's no excuse for not being able to find us.
Well, if you're on Facebook, are people communicating with you all the time up there?
Absolutely, all the time. Every day there's some new people posting stuff. We're getting new fans on there every week. It's great.
All right. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We got more coming up. We're at Dice House here in Fullerton. Chapman Avenue is where we are, simply because, like with all of our shows, we go out and try new things. I'm going to learn along today as well, and because you ought to know. Stay with us. More yet to come. Welcome back, everybody. Jim Hall, you ought to know, here in Fullerton, California, just adjacent to Cal State Fullerton, Fullerton College down the street here. And, boy, we're in the college community here. Twan, introduce yourself.
My name is Twan. I'm co-owner of Dice House Games.
Well, you make it sound so easy. I'm just a co-owner, but it's not an easy thing to do, is it?
Well, I'm the brains of the operation. Ted's like the beauty,
Yeah.
so
It works out. We've got beauty and the beast, is
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah.
Brains of the operation. Now, Twan, I had a chance to come in and talk to you. Chris has known you forever. Chris is shooting back here, our executive producer, and he's doing some of the shooting for us today. He saw you years ago at Game Castle, of course.
Game Castle, correct? Yeah, that's where I first met. I've known Chris, maybe close to a decade.
Yeah,
close to a decade.
So.
Yeah.
A decade, and I don't know, $13,000, $14,000 later. I'm not sure, but
it wasn't cheap.
Well, let's talk about that, because we got to mention what Ted talked about, the partnership the two of you got going. Why did you do the Dice House now?
There's something missing in Fullerton. A long time ago, Game Castle was a staple in Fullerton. it was a great community where gamers could just gather, play games, hang out, just conversation. It was just a great community. And when Game Castle left Fullerton, there was something missing. So when Ted and I decided to open up a place, we said, let's bring it back to Fullerton. Let's look for a place that's close to the colleges. And we were fortunate enough to find this place, and it worked out really well.
Well, when you talk about that gathering of people, not only getting into the games, they talk about things. I've been in here a few times. I've drifted in, come in to see what's going on in the store. People gather around. They're eating lunch together. Then they break out the cards or the board games or whatever, and they get going on it. And you told me, what are your normal hours?
Well, we're scheduled to be open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., but we always stay later. If the gamers want to play, then we stay. We stay until they're done.
Well, you were telling me that sometimes you're here 1, 2 in the morning.
Oh, at least. At least sometimes. Usually on the weekends, when our tournaments or events run long, we stay. They're having fun, and we don't want to break that fun. We want them to continue playing. So they say, you know what, Dice House, we can go there and not worry about getting kicked out, because we're still playing, so they can continue playing until they're done. And that's sometimes I'm home at 3 or 4 in the morning because of that. But it's all in fun. It's good for the business. It's good for the community.
Well, how many people are you talking about? How many people will come in and play at any given time? What's your average type crowd for like a Magic tournament? Or tournaments are exceptions, though, aren't they?
Tournaments can be exceptions, but like Magic tournaments on Friday nights will have 30-some-odd players. Tomorrow we're expecting close to 50 players. And sometimes we'll just have special events, like we had April Fool's Day event. Just come on in. We're going to play a bunch of different games, and they were here till maybe close to midnight, 1 in the morning. And that was on a Thursday, I believe. So just on the weekday, it's insane, but it's fun. It's you want that.
I got a little background from Ted, and so let's get a little background from you. Where'd you come from? What was your beginnings like coming out of school? Where'd you go to school at? Where'd you grow up at? And how'd you get into this love of the business?
Well, it's funny. I went to Cal State Fullerton freshman year. My girlfriend at the time saw Game Castle and said, "Hey, this is a lot of fantasy stuff." And I'm really big in fantasy. I love drawing fantasy, reading fantasy, watching fantasy. And so I went there, applied for a job, and that's how it started. And that was 15 years ago. And I stayed with Game Castle for 13 years, learned everything about the business, and just went from there.
Well, in that time, then, what has come and gone? What's been one of the big staples in the role-playing game industry? Magic, of course, I guess.
Yeah, for card games, Magic is it's the granddaddy of card games. Everyone knows D&D. I mean, even non-gamers nowadays know what Dungeons and Dragons is. Back then, it was sort of a niche, hush hush. We play D&D, but now it's based off of Tolkien. With Lord of the Rings, that helped a lot. It opened up fantasy to everyone, so now everyone's more familiar with it.
Well, wait a minute. I remember when Chris, now behind the camera again, was a teenager in his early teens, actually, and D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. In case you're wondering what we're talking about,
yes.
I can remember when it was very. Was that a cult thing? Was that a bad thing?
No, it was just different. It was different, so you didn't want people to question it. Some people were maybe embarrassed about it, but the embarrassment's gone. Now it's a huge part of the fantasy world and
fantasy and having some real strategy with it, right?
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of strategy. The difference between the games that we carry and the games that you'll find at other places like Walmart or Target or whatsoever is the fact that it's not just rolling dice and moving your pieces. There's actually thought and strategy behind it. How you lay out your plan will determine if you have a higher advantage of winning or losing or whatsoever. And then they throw in fantasy with that, so it's not just moving tokens or moving pieces. It's you can visualize. Yes, my character is going to take down that that creature this way or that way. So it's a lot more than just your normal throw dice, move your pieces. Maybe you win, maybe you lose. There's a lot more to it.
All right. Well, we're going to be back. We've got Ted here, Twan's here. We're going to see some of the people that are a lot of the folks coming in. They're starting to set up and do some things. In fact, I see some of the people here. You mentioned you get a lot of regulars that are here. And as I've been in the shop before, I see 3, 4, 5, 6 different people that I recognize. A couple visits that I've made. So you get some people that hang here all the time.
Yeah. Well, when you build a community, they want to come back. It's not just players they're playing against. It's friends now. They become friends.
Well, that's got to tell you something that you're doing something right here at the Dice House as well.
Hopefully.
All right. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We'll be right back simply because, like with all of our shows, you ought to know. Welcome back, everybody. Jim Hall, you ought to know, here at the Dice House in Fullerton. And let's see, we can look up the Dice House on the internet.
We're all over the internet.
Yeah.
Facebook. We have our own website. It's dicehousegames.com. So we're all over the place.
All right, Ted, you gave us a phone number and the address. Do that one more time.
It's 2493 East Chapman. Phone number 714-871-6494.
Well, I heard a little discussion here. Is there a little conflict between the two of you? Who really is the brains and who's got the beauty?
I'll let them have both.
He's conceding already. A true game player.
We'll have to roll a dice for it.
There
I
you
guess
go.
you know.
All right. Well, you talk about rolling dice. I see all kind. Is the proper term die or dice?
It's a dice.
Die is a singular, dice is plural.
And a lot of your games take one, two, multiples.
Usually multiples. Every once in a while, though, you'll just have to roll one die.
All right, educate me. I'm walking in the door, and I really did walk in the door again today.
Mm-hmm.
But my son has been here, as I said, for years and years and years, and dealt with you guys when you were at Game Castle. But here you are at Dice House, and this is one of the better-looking stores that I've ever been in, and I've been in a lot of them. How did you achieve this?
When we designed the store, we wanted more of a Barnes and Noble feel, a more comfort, warm place to play rather than your normal white wall mom and pop shop. We wanted something where people can come and, yeah, I want to be there. You know, I want to hang out there instead of buy your stuff and go. We don't want that. We want you to come, hang out, play games, have fun.
Well, I got to tell you, I've been in a lot of them. I have financed this. I'm telling you, the camera guy back here can attest to this. Ted, I've walked in stores where I could hardly get down the aisles because it looked like they were filling the stores with every bit of inventory they could get.
Yeah, I've seen stores like that as well. So we might want to make sure that we carried just the top-of-the-line stuff, what people would want, but yet be comfortable enough to come just hang out and have fun, meet new people.
Well, like I said, I've been in here a few times now in the Dice House, had the opportunity to drop by, talk with Twan, was here the last trip in. I see familiar faces that are here. They like it. People get comfortable. In fact, you were in, as I mentioned, people enjoying lunch here. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to be game time. What will be one of the more popular games that everybody will be playing tonight?
Oh, tonight we're doing Friday Night Magic. It's every Friday. It's a really inexpensive entry fee, $5. You get to play. You always walk away with something. Coming first or last, you always get something out of it.
Okay.
So,
well, if I were interested on my own, I have a desire to start getting into some of this. Where are you going to point me?
Well, as I said earlier, we do have the intro packs. I would recommend starting with that, getting a few boosters, just sitting down, learning how to play, and then you make friends here. We trade for cards or what you want and just customize your own deck, and you just sit down and play.
How do I know if I'm wanting board game type action? What's the difference between what we're doing? Are all the board games tend to be like a role-playing type scenario as well?
It, again, depends on the game. Like we were talking about Ticket to Ride, not really a role-playing game or a character-driven game. World of Warcraft, definitely a character-driven game as well. Magic, not really character-driven, just more you're the player, just playing against your friends.
Well, I heard talking to you last time when I was here kind of setting up the show and talking about some of the things that go on. The scenarios change. The board game isn't the same old Monopoly, Pass, Go, Collect 200.
one thing nice about the board games we carry is no two games will ever be the same. They're completely different, even from board setup to how you play. There's going to be trading, bartering, strategy. You know, if you use one strategy one game, different strategy another game, it's going to be completely different. Therefore, the replay value is really high on it.
Well, the opponents, what you get out of it, what you learn in strategy, and your opponents strategizing with you or against you, whatever the case may be, that certainly has to lend in the learning and increasing what you're doing there.
Absolutely. When you're working together, it's a completely different strategy. When you're working against each other, again, a different strategy to where you and who you're playing is going to be different every time as well.
What's one of your most enjoyable games you'll sit down and play? Board game type.
Board game type, I'd say my favorite would be Last Night on Earth. It's a zombie-based game, survival game. It's a lot of fun. In that game, you're working with some people against another person.
What about you, Twan?
Ted stole it from me, but Last Night on Earth is a fantastic game. Best example is, your normal zombie movies. Well, just take yourself and put yourself in a zombie movie. That's probably the best description I can give you. It's going to turn out differently every time on where you choose to go, what you choose to do, and it's actually pretty realistic. Well, it's a zombie game, but it's realistic in you don't go out there and try and punch the zombie. He's going to eat you. You need to find weapons. You need to work with your teammates to find a strategy to fulfill the scenario. If it's get out of town, get out of town. If it's kill the zombies, but you have to work together.
All right, tell me about the card games again. We talked about Magic a few times here. What is one of the card games that has come and gone that really should have stayed around, disappeared?
I would have to say Legends of the Five Rings. That was, from what I understand, I've played it a few times. Really a fun game. Great mechanic and everything, but it just never took off here.
Twan, you shook your head. Are you agreeing with that one?
Oh, I agree with that one also, but there's been many. One that sticks out for me is Lord of the Rings, which is a fantastic card game, but it wasn't that there wasn't enough support. It was the company sort of messed up, business strategy-wise, what they wanted to do, and they went in a certain path where the players didn't like that path, and then the players fell off because of that. So,
well, it is business, and you guys have a business here. Your partners in this one, the Dice House, again, dicehouse.com?
DiceHouseGames.com.
DiceHouseGames.com. The phone number one more time, Ted.
714-871-6494.
All right. So we're here at the Dice House. You get a good look at it. You met the guys here. You can come by now and start getting involved here at the Dice House, simply because, like with all the shows, you ought to know. Stay with us. I'll be right back to wrap it up. Well, that's going to put the wraps on another show, everybody. Jim Hall, you ought to know. We've got Ted, Twan, and the internet website, if you want to go to it, dicehousegames.com. And a lot of people going to be in here. Magic tournaments, Magic Fridays. Is that what you do?
Mm-hmm. Friday Night Magic.
Friday Night Magic, and you can be a part of that as well. Caden, yes, he likes the games. Connor likes the games. It can very much be a family thing, and it is when you get involved. Dice House Games is where we are. I know, you want one of the board games right here. And we're going to be back to visit Dice House Games over and over, I guarantee, especially with these little guys and their dad behind the camera over there continuing to play those games. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Jim Hall right here, and we're here simply because you ought to know. See you next time.